Hello, everyone. We are going to start in a few minutes. Just letting everyone trickle in. I know it's Thursday. Everyone's probably making sure they tie all their loose ends before Friday. So we will give a little grace here. So if you need to grab your lunch, if you need to grab your water, go ahead and do that. We will officially get started in just a few minutes. Hello, Allison. If you are comfortable, this is an interactive workshop, so you can unmute yourself and ask questions. It is being recorded, so just be mindful of that. But the people that are watching are mostly moms and women who are just like you and me, who want to learn about their core, stop peeing their pants maybe, and get a little stronger. So we will officially get started in a few moments. I had some tech issues. Um, and I realized I think some of you didn't get the Zoom link. That's why you got that email maybe 20 minutes ago. So I hope everyone successfully got it. Otherwise, there's always the replay. All right. So I'll just wait a few moments. If you want to let me know where you're watching from, you can type in the chat. So if you just roll over the bottom there, you can see a chat box and it will pop up open and you can just let me know where you're watching from. Maybe let me know your big question for today. So if you have a burning question, type it, let me know. And if I have time, I'll definitely address it. So we're just going to wait maybe another 2 minutes or so before we officially get started. I know Sarah is coming, so she was literally just here. And I'll just see if she's on her way and then we can get going. Thank you for coming. It is so nice to see people live, that I'm not just talking to a black screen. And we are going to learn so much about your inner core. So for those of you who may not know me, I'm Tatiana, and I hope you've been enjoying my live workshops. I've really been enjoying them myself, especially because you guys are showing up live, and that's really great. It means you're dedicating time and energy to healing and transforming your health in a positive direction. Right? You're putting yourself first, which is a hard thing to do as women, as moms. I don't know, must be in our DNA or something. But this is what keeps me going. You guys showing up, because I'm passionate about preventative and healing health. And I love this community of women who want to stay active and healthy into late 30s and 40s and beyond. So thank you for coming with me on this journey and prioritizing yourself and being active and asking me questions. And, if you're not following me yet, I do have an Instagram at Tatiana Graham Inc. I'm also on LinkedIn at Tatiana Graham. And you can also come join my Facebook community if you haven't yet. It's called Running Mom Life. If you don't know, just type in the chat and I can give you the link. I put all the workshops I've done there in a library so you can go access all those different workshops. Today is called The Truth About Your Core, but there's other ones like Mindfulness 101, Opening Up Your Hips, that kind of thing. So this is a safe space. I want you to feel at ease. And the more vulnerable we can be and open we are, we can learn and grow and actually create change. This is also true for mental health, physical health, and emotional health, even spiritual. So if you're shy, that's okay. You can send me a message later or you can type in the chat. Otherwise, leave your camera on and feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. Looks like no real, I'm just want a good baseline of learning. Awesome. Okay, well, let's get started about your core, our core. When you hear the word, first of all, when you hear the word core, what do you think of immediately? I know I used to think what I used to think. I know different now, but just let me know in the chat and just be honest. And it's okay if it's the wrong answer because that's why you're here. What would you think of immediately when you hear the word core? Abs. Yeah, abs, right? And what types of exercises would you think are like the best for your abs or the best for your core?
Would you prefer chat or should we just do it and get a little more
Whatever you're
engagement
comfortable with.
here?
I love talking to
Oh,
people.
yeah, yeah, so do I. Your standard, right? The crunches, like the sit-ups, right? Yeah, it's targeting the abs, right? And I know that's not the case, so which is why I'm here.
Yeah. And that's very normal. Hi, Sarah. Are you outside?
Yes, my cleaning lady is here. My kids are eating lunch. The house is a bit chaotic, so I was
That's
like,
so nice though. You're gonna get some vitamin D, get to
I
know
know, but
your
I don't have my
core.
sunscreen
Perfect.
on, so I might jet to go apply some sunscreen at least to
Oh,
my
that's
head.
okay. Yeah. We were just discussing when you hear the word core, what do you think of immediately?
If I'm not thinking body, I think apple core, so center.
Oh, okay. Very literal, which is why I put the apple in the workshop title. Okay, think
Yeah,
body.
so center. It's
Okay,
center,
so
the
you
same
think
thing,
center of
center.
body?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So like most people, myself included, um, think of core as like the six pack. That's kind of like the
Oh.
general.
Oh, see, I think of core as the thing that supports everything.
Oh, well, you're just one step ahead of us. That's great. Probably some of your dance background, maybe.
Yeah.
But so what a lot of people don't realize is that we actually have an outer core and an inner core. And our outer core is really important, but it's not the first thing we should connect to, because if your inner core, if you're not connected to your inner core, it's kind of like a house, right? You can't build the walls and the doors and the windows if the foundation isn't there. It'll crumble anyway, right? So the inner core is our deepest layer of muscles in our body, and it supports us. It's literally the muscles that like surround our spine. And if you've ever had kids, if you've been through pregnancies and labor, that inner core and the outer core too, but that inner core really gets stretched and challenged. It doesn't mean it's bad, right? Like that's okay, but we do need to retrain and relearn those deep muscles. Otherwise, we lose the connection to them and then we can't support ourselves from inside out. So then if you're doing a billion crunches and trying to get your six pack going, but your inside, your deeper layer is not supporting you, you're never going to get that six pack anyways. And in fact, that's how diastasis recti happens, which is the ab splitting. Have you guys heard of that? Where you get like split abs, because your six pack is like, it's actually 8 and it's muscles that go like this. And when you're doing all those crunches without the inside deep layer holding you, supporting you, and you're trying to, work that six pack, it's actually opening apart. So let me know, you guys can just talk because there's just 2 of you right now. When you do, first, do you do core exercises? And second, if you do you feel like you have an awareness of that deeper level, deeper core, or you're not sure?
I don't do many like core specific exercises. When I do, but I'm not doing a whole, they're not that strong in inner or outer. I don't feel like they're that strong. So I can't distinguish between what is inner, honestly, and what is outer.
Okay.
So I'm in the I don't know.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad
Yeah.
you're here then, because you're gonna learn so much. And I think Sarah went to get her sunscreen. I do know that she knows though, because I have worked with her before. Okay, So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get you to close your eyes and put one hand on your heart, and you can just sit comfortably. Make sure you feel really supported so you're not like holding yourself up. So if you have a back to your chair, just like let go, but you want to be in neutral spine. So make sure you're not like slouched, you're in neutral spine, but hopefully supported. And we're going to close our eyes and feel our breath. And the reason that we need to feel the breath first is because your diaphragm is part of your inner core. So your diaphragm, as you just sit and breathe, I'm going to explain to you, your diaphragm is this dome-shaped muscle underneath your rib cage. Okay, and it's like quite expansive. Your rib cage is 3D, right? So your whole rib cage, front and back, covering it like a dome umbrella shape is your diaphragm. Okay, that's the top of your inner core. Just like soften your breath and try to feel that long inhale and exhale as you breathe. So that's your diaphragm, part of your inner core. It's kind of hard to feel that one, but just trust that it's there. Trust that your diaphragm is there. And then the next part of your inner core is called your transversus abdominis. Okay, otherwise known, or what I like to tell my clients, is your corset muscle. So if we were to peel away your six pack, pretend we took it off your body, then we took away your external obliques, which are side abs, take that away. Then there's another set of side abs called your internal obliques. We're at the fourth layer, okay? So we would be at the fourth layer of your abs, and this is the one that's really important. It's called your transversus abdominis, otherwise what I like to tell my clients is your corset muscle. Hi, people who are joining in a bit late. We are just feeling our breath, and we're talking about the deep layer, the inner core, because it's different than the outer core. So quickly, if you're just jumping on, close your eyes, feel your breath, and pretend we've taken away your six pack. Pretend we've taken away two sets of obliques, external obliques and internal obliques, and we're tuning in to see if we can feel our deep inner core. So again, that first part of the inner core is that diaphragm. The second part is this transversus abdominis corset muscle. It attaches from your bottom rib to your hip, and it wraps around you literally like a corset. Okay, it's very deep, and it inserts onto multifidi. So your back is a series of bones, right? Vertebrae, 24 bones. And the deepest layer that goes from one bone to the next one up, like a Christmas tree branch, is called multifidi. It's our stabilizer. It keeps our back nice and strong and stable in a nice posture all day. But the only way multifidi work really well is because it's attached to the corset. The corset attaches to that multifidi in the back, all the way from neck to tailbone. So if your corset is firing properly, your spine can be in a nice neutral posture pretty effortlessly because the corset is working and it's helping the multifidi fire. Okay, so that's diaphragm, corset, and multifidi so far that we've talked about for inner core. Does anyone have a guess on what the last part of the inner core is? You can be wrong, it's okay. You can type in the chat. You can point to your body part, or you can just tell me. Just take a guess. There's one more part of your inner core. So we talked about the top, diaphragm, middle, the back, the multifidi. There's one more part of the inner core.
Your glutes or your hips or something.
Something in your hips. Yeah, glutes are outer. Actually, that's a good point. Glutes are part of your outer core. We'll do that workshop another day. Think like peeing your pants and postpartum stuff. You don't even have to have a baby to have this issue, because like men have it too. What's down there?
Pelvic floor.
Pelvic floor.
pelvic floor. Thanks, Bambi. Hi, Bambi. And thanks, Sarah. So, guys, if you just close your eyes for a minute and picture your pelvis, it looks like a bowl, right? The bowl shape. It's not empty. The bottom of your pelvis is lined with muscles. And for just like the purpose of connection, we're going to think front and back. So the front pelvic floor, I want you to picture your vagina. And we're all sitting, so it feels like, or it should feel like, if you're relaxed, if you are relaxed, and if you're not, it's okay. But if you're relaxed, it feels like your front pelvic floor, your vagina, is like on your chair. Or I like to say to clients, it's like if it was a flower, the petals are blooming on the inhale. So close your eyes and try it. If you're like, nope, I'm uptight and closed like a bud, like we'll talk about that in a second. But right now, just see if you can feel, especially on your inhale, and I'll explain why in a sec. Your inhale should feel like your petals are blooming, right down there. And the back part of the pelvic floor, the back side, picture a coffee bean shape, like a little coffee bean. If it was way up in your bum, you're so relaxed in your back pelvic floor that the coffee bean might just fall out. It'll like bloop, roll out. We're not pushing it out though. It's not like a strain. It's just you're so relaxed. It just might roll out. If you're shy to go on camera, that's okay. You can type in the chat if you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, or you're like, nope, I can't let the bean go, or just give me some feedback here. Because these are hard to connect to if you haven't in the past, or if it's been a while, or you've had C-section, or you've had, really tough labors. Like there's so many reasons, or some people with IBS, like gastro stuff, they're always holding because they're terrified they're going to pee or go to the bathroom in their pants. So let me know if any of those parts are hard to connect with, and I'll try to give you some cues. So we're going to take another like 5 to 10 breaths to really kind of see if we can connect with that inner core. And the reason why we need to let it go open first is because we got to make sure there's full range of motion, even in this muscle group, before we can actually strengthen it. So I'm going to give you an example. Like if I had a client come in for physio, right? I'm a physio, and they came in and their arm was like this, and they're like, I want to strengthen my bicep. I'd be like, okay, we can't do that because you don't have full range of motion in your bicep. Like they can't even open their arm to pick up the weight. Same goes in here. Like if you are really tight for whatever reason, you've learned a pattern to hold it. Maybe you were terrified to pee your pants. I don't know, when you were working as a server and you like held your pee all the time, and now you're like tend to be tight in there. We can't give you strengthening exercises because there's no room to hold. To be honest, like most of the women I see who have like incontinence or like leaking or that kind of symptom, even pain with sex, it's because they're too, their muscles in there are too tight. And we have to actually learn to open and let go to get that full range of motion function first, before then we can learn to like contract it. Does that make sense? Can you guys let me know? I'm seeing some nods. Let me know in the chat if you're like, oh yeah, I noticed like the front is really hard for me to let go, or like the back side's really hard for me to let go. Or maybe for you, it's the breath. Like some people have really stiff diaphragms because their rib cage, they don't feel that rib cage expand on the inhale and collapse on the exhale. That would be like tension in the diaphragm. So let me know in the chat, and maybe you don't know the answer yet, and that's okay too. But today we're just kind of like bringing awareness to this area that is pretty deep, and sometimes if we haven't connected to it, it's really hard. So don't don't feel like you're a lost cause if you have no idea what I'm talking about. Like, trust that you can make those connections to your body, even your deepest layer. It just might take some time. And if you want to watch this workshop again and like try again, I encourage you to, because it's not, when I see people for this in my office, in my practice, it's not just like a one-off. We have to like revisit, I have to guide them again. And it takes time to make those neural connections to that mind-body connection, to that deep layer. Hi, Heidi. So let's try again all together. If you're just jumping on and you have no idea what's going on, I encourage you to go back and watch the beginning of the replay, because I did break down the inner core. But it's okay if you're jumping on now, because we're going to do some breath right now. And I want to describe it in the breath and see if you can connect to it, okay? And if you can't, again, give yourself some grace. It might be a very new muscle group that you're learning. So we're going to put one hand on our hearts and one hand on our bellies. Soften through your shoulders, soften through your jaw. Nothing needs to work right now, right? We're supported by our chair. Hopefully you have a back on your chair. And I just want you to feel your breath. Let's do 5 breaths together. Really not thinking about anything. Oh, good. I'm so happy you're here, Heidi. I'm happy too. And I hope your airport experience is going well. All right, so let's talk about the inhale versus exhale in just a moment. So I want you to tune into your inhale versus exhales. And again, we're just here to be open and vulnerable so we can learn, right? Would you guys think intuitively, or maybe it's not intuitive, when you inhale or when you exhale, which one would be like encouraging the inner core to open and relax? Is it the inhale or is it the exhale? Just like down to the physiological level of, okay, when I breathe in, air is coming in. So is it the inhale versus the exhale? Which one would physiologically relax and open up that inner core?
I feel
Remember that-
like
Yeah.
the breath out, because that's, to me, it's a relaxation process. Like the breath in feels active and the breath out feels relaxing. But you were saying to feel it on the breath in. So
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you, Sarah. Deep exhale feels like letting it all go. Heidi says that too. This is very common, you guys. It's actually the opposite. I'm going to explain why. Everyone's like, eyes like saucers. Because when you breathe in, what's happening? Feel it in your body. What's happening when you breathe in?
everything expands.
Yeah, because we're bringing air in, right? So when you inhale, air is filling your lung lobes. When your lung lobes fill, here's that diaphragm. The diaphragm goes down because your lungs are here, right? So your diaphragm is gonna go down when you're filling your lungs with air. And then as your lungs fill with air, the rib cage expands. When your rib cage expands, what happens to the corset and the before I talk about corset, what happens to your stuff inside? The organs shift, right? The organs actually shift down just a little bit, but they do shift down a little bit because the diaphragm pressed down because it's making room for the air. Rib cage is opening. So what happens to the corset? Corset expands. And then where does the pelvic floor go? Where should it go? Anyone? Heidi says, so true, breathing makes space. Love the intercostal.
So I guess it pushes it down.
Yeah, so when we inhale, that pelvic floor actually descends a little bit. It's like I say someone sat in a hammock. even though, you know, like I know because like in like a relaxation calming, let's say a shavasana or yoga class or mindfulness, exhale, let it all go. That's okay to do because like there's that like like sigh it out, let it go. What I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. There's that pattern there and like the guidance of mindfulness and stuff. But if you're like really tuning in physiologically, it's more natural to inhale and expand the inner core. It doesn't mean you can't leave it expanded on the exhale though. So here's the next piece, right? Now that you know, okay, like when I inhale, actually, if I'm going to have a full functional breath, nourishing my lungs, expanding my rib cage, can I feel my pelvic floor drop? So the bean, the flower petals, the expansion in the belly, rib cage. Diaphragm's hard to feel, but just trust that if your rib cage is like expanding, you're doing it. Tell me if you guys feel like you can access that and can you keep it relaxed on your exhale. So we're going to inhale and try to really visualize, okay, dropping the bean, blooming the flower petals, rib cage expands. And then as we exhale, stay soft. Maybe the rib cages will come down a little bit in on the exhale, but can you keep the pelvic floor kind of soft? Or does it come right back into that tight butt? Do you want to pull that bean back in? Just take a few breaths to see where you sit. Like, what is your baseline? Another cue I give clients is, okay, if your pelvic floor was like an elevator, do you always sit at the like penthouse, like the top floor, middle, ground floor, or are you able to drop it down to like P2? Let me know how that was for you. Which one do you, where's your baseline? When you really tune in, right?
I'd say definitely not P2, but definitely ground floor to lower.
Okay.
Like where it sits.
Good. So when you really tune in, you're like, yeah, I can open and get there. And then when you exhale, does it like kind of come up to ground floor is what you're saying?
It makes it harder to stay there.
On your exhale, it makes it harder to stay
low.
Stay low. But do you go all the way back to like top floor?
I don't ever think I'm in the top floor unless I actively think about being in the top floor.
Okay. Okay. I feel like Allison, you wanted to say something.
I'm just trying to like feel what it all feels
okay.
like. This is super new to like.
Okay, so you're still connected. That's totally, yeah.
Just trying to like, oh, is this the top floor or is this the ground floor?
Totally. Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah. And that's really normal when you're new to it. So like I said at the beginning, like this is just an intro, right? Like you're just getting to know these muscles. So don't feel like you have to all or nothing it, and don't feel like it's not going to be overnight, right? It's like if you started doing weights at the gym, you're not going to be like a bodybuilder the next day. It just like takes time to actually connect and build these muscles. And in our case right now, even just the awareness, even just the connection, right? Like I think that it'll be great homework for those of you who have never thought about these muscles to be like, where do I sit? You know, like, am I always in the middle? Am I always like up here? Or do I have? And then what the goal is to be able to have like this rhythm. And the rhythm meaning like most of the time when you're just quiet breathing, right? Like we're not working hard right now, we're sitting. It's mostly like the inner core like actually moves with your breath and it's soft. It's P2 ground flourish, right? And then there's that rib cage expansion because we need the breath to move. And then your core.
I really appreciate this, Tashiana, because I'm always aware of like my diaphragm, the rib cage
Okay.
expand. Once at a neuroscience conference, and he was talking about parasympathetic versus sympathetic dominance, and he was talking about how our pelvic floor has that vagus nerve going through it. And we're walking around, he said, basically y'all are walking around with your assholes really tight, which is true. And
I love you, Bambi.
and it was like, and he goes, all right, so I want everybody to focus. And the way he described it, which was very helpful for me, was he said, think of your pelvic floor as like a trampoline. And you know how the old trampolines had the woven straps, crossed over each other. And he said, imagine having those straps begin to spread out. And as we did that, like there was an audible sound in the audience because people were taking pressure off their vagus nerve.
Wow.
And they were setting into that parasympathetic dominance, which is the peace, right? That's what we get with meditation. And so that's very helpful because what you're talking about, I'm going, oh yeah, that trampoline thing that dude was talking about. Okay, now as you talk about breathing in, I can feel the trampoline dropping and expanding. So my question to you is, am I wanting the trampoline to expand and contract with my breath? Like I'm intentionally making sure it contracts again and comes up to what ground one, first ground level, as opposed to like 27th floor, which is what most of us are walking around with. Is that the goal?
So let me make sure I know your question. Are you
Okay.
wondering if like every breath needs to be, okay, open the trampoline, loosen it, and then bring it just to ground floor? Trampoline opens and then just to ground floor? Or are you asking, like, is that what you're asking me?
Yes. Is that the goal, is for me to do a gentle expansion and contraction of the pelvic floor? Because that's, for me, it's all about like that pelvic floor thing for, 62. That pain.
So it would be exhausting to have to think about every breath, right?
Right. No, I'm just thinking if I did a dedicated meditation on connecting to my pelvic floor.
Yeah. So what I was going to say, what I have most clients do is check in every hour, just 5 breaths. Like every hour of your working day, just like check in 5 breaths. And then if those 5 breaths aren't what you said, like aren't like, P2 and then ground, sort of that, like that's because that's our natural physiological rhythm, right? There's a bit of that 5% contraction and then let go when we're like sleeping and quiet breathing. Most of us should be like that, right? When we're at rest. But a lot of us are very uptight because of stress and all the things in life. So we're kind of like holding in like 5th floor, 10th floor even, and then it's a lot of effort to get it back down. So then if you check in every hour, at least you're like aware of what level you're at. And then the next 5 breaths are to encourage full relaxation, like full opening. And then whatever happens on your exhale happens. If you tend to pull it all back, that's okay. But like, let's encourage that inhale to really come down and open. And then the goal is over time, when you check in, you're going to be at that P2 to just ground. But you don't want to be so hyper focused that every breath you take, every moment of your life,
right,
is like pelvic floor, because then you'll drive yourself crazy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I actually I went to a pelvic floor PT for,
Yeah.
incontinence, and she was saying, once she checked me out, she said, "Oh, you're actually super tight is your problem." I'm thinking like Kegel man, Kegel man. She goes, "No, no, no, don't Kegel. Kegel's gonna make your situation worse." So what you're talking about is having like that muscle thing that you said, you have to have that
Mhm.
axe. It's all coming together in my head now. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And like, I love that you brought up Kegels because so many women, or even men too, but a lot of women hear from their doctors, especially after having kids, like, oh, you got to make sure you do your Kegels. And it's like, it's not just the Kegel though. Like you can't, because it works together
Hmm.
harmoniously. And if you don't have your breath and that middle section, that corset working in unison with the pelvic floor, if you're just like Kegeling your pelvic floor, you're actually fighting your breath and you're fighting yourself. Um, which then is not functional. And a lot of times they don't talk about Kegels in the back, right? Like they describe the Kegel like the front, and that pelvis rise front to back. If you're always only squeezing the front, like the vagina flower thing I talked about, over time you can actually like pull tighter in the front and pull your tailbone like forward.
Mm.
Now that's like, I don't know you guys like that intimately yet, but like just like something to think about. You want this rhythm to be like kind of equal through. So if you notice, oh no, I tend to like really squeeze that bean because I'm terrified of being gassy, let's say, then
Mhm.
your focus would be like, okay, like backside, because like that's harder for you to connect to and like give yourself permission to let go. Or maybe the fear, it stems from a fear of like peeing my pants. So a lot of women I see are like the front is harder. So just you kind of have to like almost like fine tune that.
Interesting.
Allison had to go. That's okay, Allison. So yeah, like I mean, there's so much more we could unpack here, but like in general, sort of that's the inner core. What I want you guys to take away is that the inner core, you must start with the breath, and it works as a whole unit. And even though it works as a whole unit, you yourself might find, oh, like it's my diaphragm that's really tight because my rib cage doesn't move. Or like maybe for you, it's like years and years of like sucking your belly in, right? Like maybe when you're a kid, your mom said, hold your shoulders up and pull your tummy in. And now this part is hard for you to like inhale, open, exhale. Like this is so funny. My daughter, who is not that old, she was like, and she's an athlete, but she was like, is my tummy fat? Like, should I suck it in? And she pulled air in and pulled her tummy in. And I was like, don't do it. And then I explained it to her, like, what's actually happening when you're breathing in? And then she's like, my tummy goes in. I was like, no, close your eyes and just like feel your body for a moment. What happens when you breathe in? And she's like, oh, my tummy goes out. And I was like, yeah. So if you really want to pull your tummy in, it needs to happen when you're blowing out, when you're exhaling. And then she was like, oh. So it's just like those fine things. And then pelvic floor is like, okay, like, is it together or is it my front that's tighter or my back? Or maybe like as a unit, you're holding it up there. So just like getting a little curious, not getting mad at ourselves, not beating ourselves up, but just like get curious with your inner core, get curious with your body. And the more you check in, every hour is enough, just 5 breaths. The more you check in, the more you're building those neurosynapses and the connection to your body. And then it'll become like not so much hard work. And it'll be kind of like, it's just like getting to know yourself, which is a really great thing to do. I'm going to connect that for my 10-year-old. Yes, Heidi. Like this is stuff we didn't really learn at all when we were kids. And with clients, we always laugh. We're like, it must be because when we were teenagers and we were trying on like tight jeans that like we were always like sucking the breath in to like button it up or something. I don't know why that paradoxical pattern happens because I see it a lot. a lot of people think that breathing in is when they pull it all in, but that's
I was going to
fighting
say, my
ourselves.
9-year-old son was the same. His therapist does yoga, and she wanted him to breathe, and he breathes backwards.
Right.
So he pushes out when he breathes out, and he like it's almost like he brings in but tightens up everything and then breathes out and relaxes
Yeah.
everything. So to the point that she's like, take a deep breath, and he goes, and then she goes and breathe out, and he goes, and his tummy went out, and she was
Yeah.
like, no, that's the reverse of what you need to do.
And I think that comes from also just us trying really hard. You know, when you're like, someone's watching you breathe and you're like, oh, I better do it right. And you're like, ugh. Like there's something about inhale feels like, maybe it's the words, like, I don't know, right? Like it feels like tummy in, but like when you let that all go and you just like feel your body, like you're fighting yourself if you breathe that way. It's really hard to breathe that way. So if we just like slow down for a moment, lay down on the bed to zip. Yeah, Heidi, I remember those days too. So, you know, like just getting a little curious, just tuning inward, taking those moments to just connect. And then now you know, like the layers of the inner core, right? Like now you know I have an outer core. And yeah, we can do crunches and planks and sit-ups. Those are awesome, but we can't actually do those until we have a really good inner core connection, right? Like until you can really recruit those muscles. So first we have to open and let them go to make sure they are functional, right? Like I can't give someone bicep curls if their biceps like this. They'd only be curling here. I wouldn't give someone inner core strengthening if they're always at like, you know, 3rd level, 5th level, whatever. Like that's just going to make them like more tense. And then to the point of the vagus nerve stuff, they're just going to be more stressed, right? Like we need to like have that full range first, and then we can start building that strength. And then that's when you can start to build, and then the crunches and the planks can come. If you just do your inner core, you can still tone through just doing inner core work, which is really cool. Like I had a client, I think she was like, her baby was like 9 or 10 months, and she was so upset because people thought she was pregnant again. And all I gave her was this breath and the focus on exhale. And she was able to flatten her like pregnant looking tummy just through breath. Fitness training, and love this deeper dive refresher. Heidi, oh, are you a fitness trainer, Heidi? So I hope this was helpful. This is like I just love this stuff. And I teach this stuff inside my program, the Move with Ease method. And I am going to launch a 4-week, just 4 weeks of inner core training September 6th. So if anyone is interested, I'll pop in a post workshop email. You can click on the link to check it out. I teach original hot yoga in front of, oh, cool. Well, I bet you're probably quite connected to your core, Heidi. But if you want to dig a little deeper and have a refresher, I invite you to check out the link. And if you guys have any questions about the Move with Ease method, I would be happy to answer them. And yeah, just connect with me, join the Facebook group if you haven't yet. I host all my workshops there. Sorry, I should say house. So if you want to review this workshop, it would be in there. Yeah, again, thanks for, hi Heidi. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll stop the recording. But if you have any questions,